will call this meeting to order. If everyone would quick check your phones and make sure they're on silent for us. So first we'll need a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Then we need to have our official nominations for chair of this Board of Adjustment. Any nominations for chair?
I'd like to chair Melissa Eden.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion or anything?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We have to vote on the nomination too, right? Okay, sorry. So all in favor for me to be the chair, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion carries. So then we need to appoint a co-chair, please, vice chair. Any nominations for vice?
I'd like to motion Alexis Flinner as a vice.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second him.
All right, thank you. All in favor of Alexis for our vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carried. Then we need, the minutes were sent. Has everybody had a chance to read them from last time? So, a motion to approve those, please.
So move.
And second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, those are approved. So now, John, you have, you wanted to just go over,
Yeah, okay, so
Okay.
basically the boards here, Iowa courts, regard them as quasi judicial bodies, so they are the judge and the jury. They are here to look at New Life Church's case for their conditional use permit. They have an overarching statement that they have to take into consideration. They also have a process and matter of review that our code requires them to look at. And finally, the applicant has to prove that they meet all 7 requirements required of a conditional use permit in order to be granted that. The decision of the board is final and can only be appealed to the District Court of the State of Iowa. And that is it.
okay, thank you. So we will open the public hearing now to consider the conditional use permit for the New Life Church for the properties located at 28 West 5th Street and 410 Poplar Streets to allow for the operation of a church in the C3 Central Business District as allowed by Section 12.30, subparagraph 10 of the zoning ordinances of the City of Atlantic. So is there a member of the church that would like to address? All right, please, if you would go ahead and go to the podium.
If everyone can state their name.
Oh, yes, sorry, please state your name too.
Ben Winford, Senior Pastor of New Life Church here in Atlantic. New Life Church has been in need of a bigger building for probably the better part of 4 years. We've grown from a congregation of about 11 to 130 over the last few years. For a while, for about 2 years, we used the Cass County Community Building. We loved being out there. We enjoyed being out there. It accommodated our numbers, of course, but it was difficult on both our volunteers and our equipment. We pretty much had an entire church shoved in a 24-foot car trailer that would get unloaded every morning at 6:30, 7 o'clock, would get set up, tore down, put back together, and taken back to a location where we could store some of that equipment out of the elements. And so eventually we went back to our original building on 6th and Pine Street, where we decided to stay there while we continued our search for a new building. Recently, we had some structural issues with our building, and in the process of waiting out insurance and getting all that, we reached out to the Andersons to see if we could rent the movie theater for a place of worship. And once we did that, the Andersons have been nothing but absolutely wonderful in accommodating us and making sure that everything that we need is met there. They've above and beyond, actually. It's been a great place to get together. It meets our needs probably more than any other building. And I will say we have looked at every vacant building in the town of Atlantic. We've looked at vacant churches. I know a lot of people have suggested some different buildings. We have looked for a long, long time. Either they're out of our price range or they just don't fit our needs. And so we decided, along with the Andersons, hey, this could be a great permanent location for us. And so we started that process. And that's why we're asking for the conditional use permit. Our service dates and times, our main service is on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. We have a Wednesday night service for youth and children at 6:30. And that's usually when movies are normally in business, so there's no difference there. Thursday evening, we have Celebrate Recovery, which is a rehabilitation program that we run from 5:45 to 8:30. I tried to get ahead of some of these things and looked at maybe some of the issues that are out there as far as anticipated maybe parking issues or congestion. And if you would like to, I do have a packet here, if I can give this to the clerk here. This is just quite a few pictures of our public parking lots downtown Atlantic. Again, with our average attendance being 130, I went ahead and averaged on the low end of 3 passengers per car. Instead, it's usually more like 4 or 5, but I went 3 just to make sure. And so we would need about 43 spaces for parking on a Sunday morning, which is our most attended service. There are 42 parking spaces in the public parking on Poplar between 5th and 6th, 56 parking spaces in the public parking on Poplar between 3rd and 4th. The library, which of course is a public space, is closed on Sunday, has roughly 20 spots for parking. There are about 7 spots around the immediate vicinity of the theater there on the street along 5th and Poplar, and about 10 more spots behind 410 Poplar, which is another building that we would own and have our own private lot. Altogether, there are about 135 spots that are available for Sunday morning. All of which are perfectly fine since there are no businesses in the vicinity that are open on Sundays, at least during our service time. And I did either call or look up as far as online for business hours, and there's actually none of them within the vicinity that are open at all on Sundays. So business as usual then on a Sunday for us. Our Wednesday and Thursday activities, they consist of a much smaller crowd, about 40 to 60, with the majority of them being children and youth, and they're usually dropped off, and so there's only about 10 to 15 vehicles in our parking lot on Wednesdays anyways. These activities start after the majority of the businesses downtown are already closed, and that's the pictures that you see there are the parking lots of downtown after 5 p.m. And so plenty of parking still there for that. So we wouldn't affect the business's ability to provide ample parking for potential customers, which we wouldn't want to do that anyways. Our offices would be in the 410 Poplar building, and our office hours are Tuesday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m., and parking would be in our private lot behind the building. Kids programs, different things like that would still be done there at the theater, which we're not increasing the footprint of the theater with what's already been allowed by this city for the theater. The theater seats a certain number of people, and the church will seat the same potential number of people that the city has already approved. And so with that, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. We'll each get through these here. Here, I'll just pass that one. Okay, while they're finishing checking out those photos, would the Andersons, do you have a statement or anything? Okay, please. And remember to state your full name.
Jacob Anderson. I'm here with my wife, Riley. Earlier this year, Ben approached us to ask if we might be interested in renting out the theater as a meeting place for his growing church. After meeting with him, we agreed that their group had and have continued to be wonderful caretakers of our theater. They leave it clean and prepared for the movies every Sunday afternoon. Their rental fee has helped us pay for some of the utilities, and everyone involved has benefited from the agreement. In the months since, we know that no complaints associated with their use of the building, or we know of no complaints. And furthermore, we just support New Life Church and their pursuit of the conditional use permit, allowing for continued use of the theater as a meeting place.
Thank you. All right, are there any abutting or close property owners?
We
in the
have
audience?
Roger Steffens. And did you establish a time
We didn't, I thought I'd do that when we got to that,
when you get to the,
to
okay.
the next one,
And
yeah.
the briefcase.
Is that okay? Okay. Figured they could. Barb. Please.
Well, I noticed Jeff, in his article in the paper, went down memory lane, so I will just briefly on that as well. My first connection with the theater was actually while it was being used as a church back in 1948 by Zion Lutheran Church. Their church had burned on a Saturday afternoon in June, and in the interim, while they were building the new Zion Lutheran Church, they held services in the theater. Well, I was baptized in the theater, so I do have some connection in that way, and as a church. That's not why we're here tonight, but and my first movie, I still remember that. My dad, I think I was in like 5th grade or something, and he finally decided it was time that my brother and I, that's a year younger than me, that we could experience theater life. And so we got to see Swiss Family Robinson. So, but we was informed ahead of time, nothing to eat or drink, because that would cost money. But, so anyway, and I, have not been to the theater very many times ever since, but a few anyway. But I made a few points here, kind of in a hurry, so if I can read my writing, I done it in about 15 minutes time, just before the meeting, so, but anyway, I believe that there was obvious collusion that has taken place between CADCO, the chamber, and the media, that we as property owners have been told to speak against the church. They tell us, boy, didn't know my writing was so bad. Increased traffic and available parking will impact our businesses in a negative way. Simply not true and total nonsense. Not a problem as a theater, and even less of a problem as a church. I should know, having lived and operated a restaurant across the street for just over 32 years. I have observed a decline in theater attendance, and it is obvious that New Life Church has grown to the point where they need a better and bigger space. Now, to me, that's a wonderful thing, that they need more room. We likewise need, or at least desire, a theater in our town. With these so-called investors, and I don't know, are there any of them that would raise their hand as being a potential investor tonight? I know some of them are probably here, no doubt, which I would hope they would be. If they really are potential investors or not, be willing and just as able to build a brand-new facility like we see in the cities. And see, number 2, would any public money be requested for such an endeavor, whether it be for the present building or a new one, by the investor group? As for the historical aspect, because I've heard a little bit about that, the present building does not even come close to the original. Would the owners, whoever that may be willing to restore this building so it would once again fit our downtown goals? In fact, for some of you that may not, and I got this picture I'm going to pass out of this Atlantic book by Lila Hogeveen and Shona Putnam that they put out a few years ago. But anyway, I want you to, whoops. That's what it once looked like.
Thanks.
Could make it, like.
So anyway, that's the original theater. I think it's a great, let's say, Victorian look for the day, and we've been, I think, trying to get our downtown kind of along those lines again, which I think is wonderful. And some of them have done a pretty good job already. Some have not. And I'm not advocating for either side in this situation, as I will not be affected. And I'm right across the street. However, this turns out, yes, nor will my neighbors. This will no doubt be ripe for a court case should the present owner be denied his ability to sell what is his property as he sees fit. Would it not be wonderful if all our churches were to experience growing pains as we have here? Or if some of these families would fight as aggressively to have their children in church and Sunday school, as opposed to exposing these young minds to what is many times not nearly as rewarding compared to which is taught in church. Concerning tonight's format for this gathering, why were these little rules not mentioned in the letter sent out by our zoning administrator? It appears minds are made up and any input the public might offer is not welcome. Now, does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you. That, I don't think we can have questions for you. Sorry,
Okay.
that's,
Okay. No, okay.
and
I just thought,
public input is accepted because that's why we're here.
okay,
And that's why the option of letters, John, am I wrong in that?
Yeah.
The option of offering letters and having the hearing and being able to speak, that is
okay.
public,
I mean,
public.
that's why they were sent to
My only
running
other
opposite
question,
property owners, and they were given reserved seating, but at the same time, it's a public hearing, not just those property owners have a right to speak, and
Okay. All right, does that make sense?
well, yeah,
Okay.
I'm just wondering if, how many of you had your minds made up before you ever came tonight?
Absolutely not. We've got a
Okay.
whole pile of things
Well.
that we've read and many letters, and we have to follow the rules, and that's what we
Well, I would hope
hope
so,
to
yeah.
accomplish, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you for your statement. Are there any others? Any other business owners that are on the list? Okay. All right. So now, statements from the general public. How many did we end up?
We have two.
We have two? Okay. We can do 5 minutes, can't we? At least with that, we were just trying to figure out. So let's do, who's first on the list? If you,
Angie Johnson.
Angie, if you'd please come up and go ahead and state your name again, please.
I can.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Angie Johnson, and I guess I am a business owner, so I own the grooming shop, Gracefully Groomed, next door to the Little Cobbler. So I'm really glad that the church is growing, and I, being a Christian myself, think that's amazing.
Yep.
But when I went to choose to start my own business in grooming, I was offered many other places besides Atlantic. But I liked Atlantic, and I love the downtown, and I have had people come from out of town, and they will go see a movie, as sometimes I do stay open later to groom, to get them in. And so it kind of gives them an opportunity. What do you do after 5 o'clock? Well, you can go to the theater if it's open, so I would try to schedule people on those days that they could use our Atlantic Theater, as well as I offer and also recommend them to shop downtown. The other thing is that the Atlantic Theater is a historical place. Everybody, for the most part, enjoys the theater, but it's also a place where people can go that maybe cannot afford to go out of town to another theater. Our kids both live in Bellevue, and when they come back, that's the one thing that we do enjoy going to, is the Atlantic Theater. So I guess that's my spiel on that. I just think I know I know you guys need a church, but I also know that the city needs a theater, even if people don't think that they do, and you may not go use the theater, but there are people that come to our town and they do use the theater because I have sent them there. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, who's next?
Next is Barb Jorgensen.
I've been a business owner here for probably a long, long time. And I wrote a Facebook post to just kind of put it out there for a lot of people to see what they thought about things. So I'm going to read exactly to you what I wrote. This was written last night. It won't be too long now before a decision is made on the future of Atlantic's Theater. I, like so many, can recall such fond memories. For me, it was getting tossed for throwing milk duds over the balcony or waiting in long lines to see such movies as True Grit or Star Wars. While I have no disrespect for any congregation seeking a permanent home, to me, Atlantic's Theater is a treasure and a part of our promotion. We always promote our downtown as historical downtown Atlantic, so why do we want to lose our historical theater? Realize once it's gone, it is gone. And just because it's unsuccessful under one owner does not mean it cannot become profitable investment for someone else. Our community recently purchased land for a development for many new homes. Many of them will be families either relocating or moving to Atlantic. A theater is a positive for promoting our community. Our city council also hired a man and is paying him a fee to do data on businesses he feels our community needs. Yet we are losing businesses and possibly our theater. How does that look for possible business interests looking to Atlantic? It's a very tough decision before this committee. I hope the meeting will be full and everyone speaks how they feel from both sides with respect for one another. The theater to me is a historical treasure. It holds so many fun and wonderful memories for all of us growing up. It is a place for the children of Atlantic to now make memories on their own, just like what we did. Okay, and I have one other thing if you will bear with me for a minute, I will read. find it. Okay. And this was the other thing I wanted to say. For all of you, I think if you grew up in Atlantic, you would realize the theater was such a wonderful big part of everybody's life. We all know that things change, but for many, going to the theater brings back such fond memories, or it is an escape from a stressful day, or a fun night out with the ladies, or a great time for family outings without having to travel very far. It takes them back to the good old days when going to downtown Atlantic was an experience, from getting a bag of fresh, warm cashews at Ben Franklin's to shopping in the stores, and at one time we had a store for every need. They miss that. I miss that. The theater is one piece of those feelings and memories that is still here, and they want to hold on to it. Facebook, I put this a big thing on Facebook last night, and Facebook lit up with those who feel it is an icon that is such an asset to our community for both the young and the old. It needs to be protected, and many feel it should become a historical landmark. They know things change, but they don't want memories erased. Treasures are to be protected, not destroyed. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Okay, that was all then?
That's it.
Okay, all right, so, next, we,
You have to close the public hearing.
oh, sorry, thank you for the reminder. So the public hearing portion of our meeting will now be closed.
Or someone has to move in second.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry, I'm rusty at this. So could I have,
yeah, I'll move to close the public hearing.
And I'll,
I wasn't down, but could I speak?
are you guys okay
I'm
with
okay
that?
with it.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
That I'm not sure we're covered. My name's Dana Halder.
Wait till you get to the mic.
My name's Dana Halder, 1510 Lincoln Drive. One thing that was brought up was the parking lot as far as the Catholic Church and the library. Pat, you might have to help me out.
Yeah, the Catholics own that.
Right, that is owned by the Catholic Church. And the other question I have, I guess, and you can respond to this later, is how do you perceive handling a funeral with funeral procession and all the cars,
That's one of
hearse?
the questions that I had written down
Okay.
to ask, so we will ask that.
And I think the other issue is, and it may not happen, and it may happen a lot. You talked about the city parking lots and being on Sunday. A lot of times, those city parking lots are getting cleaned out with snow on Sunday. That's a time when they are not used as much and gives our city crews a chance to keep them cleaned out. They also are piling snow in those city lots. Another issue that I see could be something to consider is if we do have a lot of snowfall, that snow's getting pushed in the middle of the street, and they don't always have a chance to get that street cleaned out. Those are just some issues that I see that think it should be considered.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now could we have a motion? to
Now
close?
I will move to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So now we'll move on to the question and answer session here. We just wanted a little time to be able to ask some questions. So do you guys have some questions that you have thought about already that you would like to ask?
Melissa, do you want them to answer from their seats or the podium?
Maybe the podium, sorry. That way everybody can hear. Thank you.
I mean, I'd have to say, Dana, he hit it on the head with me with parking and snow removal is a major issue downtown. Already is a major issue, and then, yep, that was my major concern is how would we address that with snow removal? And I didn't even think of the funeral aspect of that, but yeah, the snow removal was my main concern or question to you on that.
Yeah, I'll take the snow removal first. You know, First of all, I got quite a few people in my church that would be more than willing to step up and help with that for the church's purposes. Last year, I think we had 3 snows that were significant. I've been here 8 years, and it hasn't been a huge issue. I know it can be, but it hasn't been a huge issue. But we have plows. We would be more than willing to work with the city so that they're not having to do even more if they would allow us to. And that would be up to the city to allow us to go into those public parking lots and maybe remove some snow for parking. As far as funerals, that's a real simple one. We just don't have funerals at that church. I've only done 2 funerals at the current Sixth and Pine Church in the last 8 years, though I've done 57 different funerals. So 55 funerals were done at either Roland's or Schmidt's out there. And so, again, it would just be one of those things that it's understood that, we cannot facilitate a funeral at that location, and that it would have to be done at one of our funeral homes.
Okay. Anybody else?
One other question on parking. As our downtown parking at this time is a 2-hour parking limit for all use of downtown parking, I believe. Does that sound right, John? Yeah. 2-hour parking, does that sound right? Is that the whole?
For the on-street parking, it's posted.
Yeah, just on the street,
Yep.
that's all I'm asking, yeah.
Yep.
Would that be, with service and all of that wouldn't be a problem?
Wouldn't be an issue with
Yeah.
this, no.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many, will you plan to have staff or any people there during the day, all day, like
So
office?
right now, I'm the only full-time staff. I am the only one at the office, and again, our office hours are Tuesday through Friday, 8 to 5. And that would be, our offices, again, would be in the 410 Poplar. It wouldn't be in the theater itself, and so, again, I'd be parking back there in the private lot. And if we did expand more staff, they would be in that building as well, so parking would be back there.
Okay,
I have a question. Can I pose one?
please, go ahead.
A person that contacted me, and we had a lengthy conversation, and one of the things that came up was there are other areas, and maybe you've touched on this, around the community that are potential sites.
Yes, sir.
And I'm wondering, can you state honestly to the group tonight that they've all been looked at in a systematic way for how they could be used, or what might be necessary to make them more
Yes, sir.
applied to your situation?
Yeah, not a
Sounded
problem.
like some of them were pretty good possibilities.
Yeah, there was only one new one brought to my attention, but I was quickly told that wouldn't work, that the person's not willing to sell. The other locations that we have looked at, without talking to them and having permission about that whole thing, I really don't want to go into detail, but I will tell you this: we did a 3-month feasibility study on each potential building that we found. And either the repairs were too extensive, we're talking close to $800,000 or more, or the location just didn't quite fit our needs. I know some people have suggested the church by the courthouse, which is a beautiful church. I love that church. By the way, it would make a really sick coffee shop. But it's just not big. It's no bigger than what we actually have right now at 6th and Pine Street. The other buildings that we've looked at, again, have either not been what we could afford. Again, that's a big thing for us. There was a rumor going around, something that we had like $2 million. We don't have $2 million. Let that be on the record. Not even close to that. We have $23,000 in our bank account. We brought in $110,000 this year, and the majority of that's gone back out into this community, and that's what we'll continue to do. And that's why we need a building within our budget, so that we don't have to decide whether paying a mortgage or helping somebody keep their lights on in their house. And this building fits that. And so, Mr. Munson, we have seriously looked at these other buildings, done 3-month studies on these things to see if we can make them work, because it would be wonderful to do so, but at this point, none of them.
Well, in the conversation I'm referring to that I had with this individual, it wasn't impressed on me that every situation was going to require
to make a purchase, to have X amount of dollars to put down and buy something. It's a rental possibility.
Yeah.
And that sounded like it'd be well within what you were already experiencing with, say, out in the fairgrounds and now with the theater.
Yeah. The unfortunate part, and probably everybody in here doesn't rent, they probably own their homes, is we want to be able to do what we want to do with our building and not have to continue to pack things up and move them back and forth. It's really hard on our equipment. Like I said, we love the Cass County Community Building, beautiful place to worship, but I guarantee you I went through $15,000 worth of equipment in the 2 years that we were out there, just simply unplugging, plugging back up, moving around, things getting dropped. And so the whole rental thing, any good businessman will tell you that renting is not always the best thing when you can actually have a physical asset. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. We don't really want to rent anymore. We'd like to have something that we could call our own.
Anybody else? Do you have any?
As far as the capacity of the theater now, how many seats is that?
When we purchased it, there was 462. I believe now there's 365.
Okay, and that's upstairs and downstairs.
Upstairs and-
If you folks in the back, the question was how many, or they heard the question, but the answer was 365 total seats right now. Sure.
I did forget to mention, as my much smarter, wiser old man informed me. That's why he's here. We actually love the look of the theater. I'm 38 years old. I'm in that crowd that's all about vintage. The theater's vintage. It looks beautiful inside there. I love the architecture. We plan on keeping it exactly the same with just some fresh updates. And so we love the historical factor of it. We don't really want to change much of anything, but for a few colors maybe. And that's about it. And so just wanted to throw that out there.
I had someone ask, and I don't know if you even have to worry about it, but someone asked if it changes ownership or changes use, that you would have to do, like, have ADA compatible bathrooms and all those types of things. Is that something that you're?
Yeah, how I understand it as far as code like that, as soon as we touch an existing bathroom, then it'll have to be brought up to code. And so at this point, we wouldn't be touching that. It is our hopes, though, to put a ADA bathroom in there, because currently I don't believe there is one in there right now. So that's our hopes. In fact, it's kind of a big deal for us. So.
All right. Any other questions from any of the board up here?
So do you have an estimate of if you would take that over and start doing what you're thinking about doing? What kind of cost is that gonna be?
An estimate as to?
If you're starting to renovate the existing theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have an estimate.
You know, like the ADA and so forth, and beyond that, I suppose.
Yeah, I have some really smart board members that's what they do, and so we've already put estimates together for that, and so we're well aware of what we're, I guess, getting into. Those have all been thought through.
You addressed the parking issue. You researched that and addressed
Yes,
the
ma'am.
parking issue very well. Brought evidence of that. I'm wondering too if you put thought to, because it is one of the criteria that we as a board are supposed to be looking at. So you will be occupying a retail commercial district.
Correct.
And so, and we are to be looking at the comprehensive plan and the potential growth and development of the district. So I'm just curious your thoughts on how you see the use of the building that you plan on occupying fitting in with the district.
Sure, yeah. We've always been a very outreach-focused church. pretty much any event that the city has, we're at. In fact, we have really obnoxious green shirts that everybody knows New Life Church is there. We love supporting this community. Atlantic Fest, the different things done downtown, I can only imagine all the cool possibilities to open up our building for different uses down there. We would love to continue to do some popcorn for the community. We would love to continue to provide a place of entertainment for the community. It's actually a dream of mine to bring back the good old playhouses. I don't know if you've ever been a part of a community playhouse, but I was when I was a teenager, 17, 18 years old, and they did 2 community plays a year, and people would come try out, and it was just a wonderful thing. There is a beautiful stage behind that screen downstairs. Beautiful stage behind that screen that could be revitalized and used for some amazing different community events, whether that be plays. We're in the process of trying to figure out how to keep both screens as well so that we could continue to show movies, especially partnering with the schools. I've got kids in school. I know they do the big movie thing during December. We would love to still open that up for all those kids that have done a fantastic job throughout the year and they get that reward. And so we are always community minded. In fact, I think we're probably one of the best people that could own this building because of that. And being willing to share what we have. We always love to share what we have. And so, doing just different events, partnering with the city for different events, opening our building up for different events so that the city could also benefit from that and the community at large. Yes, sir.
You brought up that you had some people very tuned into costs and so forth and abilities to carry out a repair or
Yes, sir.
restoration. Have you gotten any information about the overall stability of that building? Anything going on with it that might, infrastructure that might be an issue? Roof?
Yeah, structurally,
Base.
no. There are some repairs that need to be done to the roof, the northeast corner, that I've already gotten somebody to at least be willing to go look at that and give me just a rough quote on that. But again, it's nothing that is not outside of our scope as far as what we were kind of planning on doing.
Just as a point, I've been involved with a rise in the armory down here for several years. And we just did a major roof restoration on that building.
The barrel roof?
Pardon?
Is it a barrel roof?
It's a flat roof, basically.
Okay.
Right, that was repaired. And
Yeah.
you always get into new things when you dig into these.
Yes, sir.
You know, you think it's gonna be going a certain way, and then all of a sudden things change.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not jabbing at you, I'm just pointing out that we can all get fooled. you
Yeah,
know, on
I
some of
appreciate
these
that.
things.
Yeah. As far as we know, I trust the Andersons. They've been forthcoming with any of the issues that are there. And so, as far as we know, we're prepared to handle those situations and those issues from a financial standpoint.
Personally, I totally agree with you as far as the building. I'm a transplant I've only been in town now officially 6 years.
Yes, sir.
But I grew up in a town very much like this town, down in southeast Iowa. And my wife graduated from here, and we got married here. So I'm not unconnected to the town, and I've gotten connected to quite a few people since we've been back here on a full-time basis. But I've been to a variety of movies down there over time, over a bunch of years, and I really like the facility. And I know you've done some renovations already to it, entryway and so forth, and which has been very positive. So I'd like to see it preserved too, but hopefully it can be done in a way that's not going to bankrupt anybody.
Yes, sir.
So I'm kind of on your side on
Thank
that.
you.
in
I
that
appreciate that,
regard.
Mr. Munson.
I fixed up old stuff too, so I know the
Yes,
game
sir.
to play with that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody? Alexis, you good? All right, so, thank you very much. I think that's all the questions we have. And what we're gonna do now is, there are 7 requirements that, in order to grant a conditional use permit, that have to be satisfied. So if you're all good I'm just gonna go through and read each one, and then we can have some discussion on each, and then after that discussion, then we can, go from there.
What page?
It's in the, page 3 of the
Of the second
analysis.
packet.
Yeah. The first 4, and then it switches to the next page.
I got too many copies. Okay.
All right, so the first one, it reads that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. So is there any discussion on that one?
Or are we going through them one by one and adding discussion? on that?
Is that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's no, morals is fine, comfort is fine, general welfare, I don't think there's any, other than maybe the safety and general welfare for me are kind of intertwined. Public health, I don't think that there's any issues there. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
This one's a very broad one.
Yes, it is, very. All right, we'll just go through and, so the next one is that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted and will not substantially diminish and impair property values within the neighborhood. So we did have a few letters from property owners that were around that surrounding area that were very concerned about the parking, and one of the businesses did say that they do have appointments on Sundays, and we're concerned about parking for that and not being able to schedule things. I think, did anybody else, am I forgetting anything on that from the letters that we received, other than the congestion and parking?
Yeah. The one that stands out to me is the one that actually has appointments on Sunday.
Right.
That brought
Yep.
that up.
Yep. Okay, the third one, that the establishment of the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. Any comments on that one?
A little bit on the development improvement. I feel like since I've been here, I've been here the last 6 years, and I've seen a major focus on trying to improve our downtown. Even though it is slow, it does take time. I do feel like we are going in the right direction, and I do feel like there has been significant improvement in the 6 years I've been here. I do feel like, developing in the right direction. I feel like we are moving in that right direction. I don't know. I'm not great with words, but I think you have an idea of kind of what I mean, as in I want to continue to keep things, keep things moving in the right direction is what I'm saying, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's hard in our particular situation to comment on what is being lost versus what we are looking at tonight being added. So it's.
And it's not, I've heard many comments on Facebook and people that have called, they comment about the ability of someone to sell their property, and that's not the, anyone can sell their property to whoever they want to. That's not what we're here to decide either. We just have these 7 things that we have to consider. Those are the rules that are given to us that we have to abide by. So I just thought about that. I did have a couple comment and tried to explain that too, that it's not anybody's job, the city, government, or whoever, to dictate that someone can't sell their property. So, Okay, the next one, number 4, is those adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and/or necessary facilities have been or are being provided. So pretty much,
Yeah, that one.
that one works. Number 5 is that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. And I suppose this one is the one that the letters that we received from the property owners, that was the biggest concern was the parking, and I got a couple calls from people who were concerned about the and again, I don't know if it's true. I've not seen it myself. This is what I was told, was that there were a lot of people in the street on Poplar, crossing and not stopping, and cars were. So whether that, I don't know. I that's just okay.
I have been, again, like I said about the public library that you mentioned, I've had multiple people address that is the Catholic Church property, and that they will, that they want to, that it needs to be used for their property. So that's the main thing that I've noticed is parking is the concern.
Okay, number 6 is that the conditional use shall, in all other respects, conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, except as such regulations may in each instance be modified as provided in Article 23. And John, can you give us a little bit of clarity on what exactly that involves? Did we have Article 23? We had that in the packet, right?
Have the germane sections of 23 with parking.
That was parking.
Okay. I mean, it's not well written. I think this needs to go, whole thing needs to go back to P&Z specifically for C3. I don't think it's an issue for commercial highway or administrative districts, but when you actually dive into all the uses, and it talks about, we do allow for, what's the term? Permitted non-conforming facilities, so things that have been there forever, specifically since December 14th, 2014, are allowed to continue as is, but then it says that no permit shall be issued for any lot, tenant, or development after the effective date hereof and not in substantial conformity of the provisions of these regulations. So then it makes you refer back to the actual uses, and that's where it talks about 1 space per 5 seats in the auditorium, or 1 space per 17 classroom seats, whichever is greater. And so you'd have to do the math on what's available, but then the ordinance doesn't make a distinction on public versus private parking. If public parking's not allowed to be factored into that, it's basically kind of, ordinance is written in a way that almost you couldn't grant any conditional use permits for almost
Unless
anything.
they had dedicated parking, the
Yeah.
appropriate dedicated parking.
So
But it's a little unclear with this district in particular, because normally in zoning, C3, a downtown commercial district, in that parking section, it would say not applicable.
yeah.
But it does point, this one in Atlantic points to parking regulations that would need to be followed by providing adequate parking according to the use.
Yeah. Now, I mean, permitted uses, it seems to be, what's the term they used is, permit shall be issued for any lot. So, if it's a permitted use, and you don't need to, like, if any type of retail activity, maybe a new business, but it's a permitted use and you don't require any permits from the
Yeah.
city. Most of the businesses that have come and gone downtown
Same
don't
use
need any
to
permits
same
from
use.
us. So it's just unusual that
Yeah,
we use.
usually as soon as it changes use
Yeah.
is when some of those regulations kick in that,
Requiring
Yes.
private parking,
or
not
any,
pub-
or yeah, or anything else versus something that was there before the zoning was adopted.
Okay. Well, if so it says for parking that, for churches, 1 space per 5 seats in auditorium, or 1 space per 17 classroom seats, whichever is greater. So that would be 73. 365 divided by 5 would be 73 spots. Is my math good on that?
I need Excel to do math, so it's them.
And that's in that section 20,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
1 space per 5 seats in the auditorium, or 1 space per 17 classroom seats, whichever is greater. All right. Any more comments or questions, discussions on that one?
Yeah, so I guess it would be up to the board based on the writing of the ordinance to determine what does the absence of the distinction between public and private parking. By not having the distinction, you would be allowing multiple things to have multiple claims at any given time to public parking. But without that, it's impossible to
Yeah.
basically allow anything. And
Yeah.
so,
Because like development, like where Hy-Vee is and the old Salvation Army built, so like, and Pizza Ranch and Anytime Fitness, all of those are technically sharing that one big parking spot. And that's like written in there, you know,
For that area?
yeah,
Which differs from this area?
right.
Okay.
But it's the same kind of concept that all the buildings and businesses downtown are essentially sharing the public parking.
Okay. All right, so let's see, that was number 6. So it's number 7. That the proposed use shall be consistent with the comprehensive plan. This one is also very, very vague, because the comprehensive plan basically, Alexis, do you have an overview of just,
Yes, because I wrote it. But a lot of this is taken, you know, I didn't like come up with this language by any means. This is just standard language. Typically, so we do have a kind of breakdown between civic and public versus downtown and mixed use. So this is what the comprehensive plan outlines. So for civic and public uses includes schools, churches, community centers, cemeteries, publicly owned buildings, and other public facilities that act as centers of community activity, which I think what is being described here falls into that. May be permitted in a number of different areas, including residential areas. Individual review of proposals requires an assessment of operating characteristics, project design, and traffic management. Commonly allowed in areas zoned for residential or institutional. So R1, 2, or 3, or the institutional zone, which can be INS. I don't think we don't have any institutional zones in our zoning in Atlantic. Then on the other side of that, downtown mixed use, which is what this zone is. Traditional downtown districts includes a mix of uses, primarily commercial, office, and upper level residential. Should be the primary focus of major civic uses, including government, cultural services, and other civic facilities. Developments outside the city, outside the center of the city, should be encouraged to have downtown characteristics, including mixed-use buildings, and an emphasis on the pedestrian scale. Establishes mixed-use patterns in a traditional city center. District may expand with appropriately designed adjacent projects that respect pedestrian scale, design patterns, and setbacks within the district. So, all of these buildings are lot line to lot line, there's no setbacks, so that would be, you know, if there's any building tore down, that would be what would be expected to be built back. Historic preservation is a significant value. Good pedestrian and bicycle link should be provided to surrounding residential areas and zoned as CBD, the commercial central business district. So that is that's what our comprehensive plan outlines, you know, just kind of outlining the different uses and where they should go, where they should be placed. And then it also says commercial areas often consist of retail and offices uses with the option of mixed-use buildings. Mixed-use buildings in Atlantic are readily found in the downtown area and consist of a building with a business located on the ground level and another use such as residential apartments located on the upper level. The commercial uses provide jobs, services, and retail options for residents and visitors. Commercial zones will continue to grow around existing hubs of commercial activity along 7th Street downtown and Highway 6 on the edges of Atlantic.
All right, any other questions for John maybe on that? All right, so looking at those 7 things, remember that all 7 requirements have to be satisfied in order to vote yes for the issuance of a conditional use permit. So is there any more discussion or anything on those, or are we ready for someone to make a motion?
Have we established that all of them meet?
We could go back and we could do,
Like say yes or no, or I don't know.
yeah, that might be an easy way to get to start here. So what are everyone's thoughts on the first one?
No problem.
Yeah,
Public health, no problem at all.
everybody good with that one? Number 2, conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted and will not substantially diminish and impair property values within the neighborhood. That one I have questions just because of the letters that we got.
Yeah, and it's hard to determine what, if any, impact, like property value, as far as like long-term property values. We know for sure it's not like, I'm trying to think of a use that would, it would be obvious that it would impact property values, like.
A landfill.
Yes, I was gonna say like a trash collecting service, or, you know, something with a big smokestack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing I had was circled on that was just question mark impaired property values.
Yeah,
That's kind
I
of
don't know
And
if,
use and enjoyment with the property owners, and John, it's, I don't know what word I want. The surrounding property owners are to be considered fairly heavily, I guess, in the weighting of, and their comments.
I would,
From-
board would be the ones to make that determination on what that language means. All I know is that the state Supreme Court takes literally every word of these sentences into account, and like if there's confusion on what it means, and then therefore it's being ignored, that will be something that could be pounced on in an appeal. So I'd say
I-
read every word in that very carefully and determine, and make, as a group, make a conclusion
Yeah.
on what that means.
I mean, none of us have a crystal ball, but I don't think anyone from the I have not seen concrete evidence that this use will impair property values or decrease property values.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Put in the perspective of your own neighborhood, if you have somebody move in, people move out, somebody else moves in and they start trashing the neighborhood, that would be an impedance on you. And so if something happens at this facility where it becomes a nuisance situation, that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
I don't perceive that's gonna happen, but that's
And that
what,
could happen with any business, you know, at the same
Right.
point, you know, you can't control that.
a variety of reasons.
I'm not sure, I did not look into this ahead of time, but I'm not sure if the tax rate will go down because it went from a commercial, well, they're not, it's going to zero.
Right.
They're not going to be paying property taxes, but, I don't know how that would affect other properties that are still remaining tax-paying, commercial, retail type uses. But that's the only thing I can think of, is that from the city's perspective, the tax base will be decreasing.
And will that be
But like
made
I
up,
said,
will that
yeah.
have to be made up by the surrounding neighbors or that district? Or is that, I'm not sure on that.
I mean, yeah, the loss of the taxable value of the levies, if you need the same amount of tax dollars, you have to increase the levy to offset.
So it will increase the district for everyone.
It would, I mean,
Yeah.
the amount though, I would have to look into that.
Okay.
So I have a question. You're saying our property taxes will go up since the church will not be paying property tax.
Correct.
I don't like that much.
Yeah.
And that's for the entire district. That'd be the entire downtown.
It would be the entire municipality, because it's all one.
The entire city.
Yep. Oh, and city, okay.
It should, which would equate to not,
Right.
Sure.
not,
Dilution.
Sure. I
mean-
didn't know if it was just the retail, like that
Yeah, it
downtown
doesn't get-
district, or if it was citywide.
Yeah, that,
Yep.
it then dilutes through the whole thing, and ultimately,
Right.
the city council is the one that determines the tax levies, but, I mean, yeah. There would be a loss of taxable valuation, but
But
there's
that'd
no
be
way
the-
for this board to know what the actual impact
Right.
of the taxpayers.
Because like Brian said, there's other buildings that are improving, so that's, you know.
Offsetting
Yeah.
values can
That's-
occur at
yes,
the
those
same
values
time.
I don't know
are
what the
going up
tax,
as
do you know what the
well.
taxes are on the building right now?
I think it was 3,600.
Okay, I was gonna guess around that 3,500 mark, so if you spread that over
It'd be less than a.
the whole city,
Yeah.
that's not gonna, it won't be,
Yeah.
it won't be much, if
Yeah.
any.
So,
Like you said, with the other changements,
yeah,
changements, that's a good word.
yeah,
Changes,
yeah,
And that would make no difference if they found another building.
right,
Right.
exactly,
Yeah.
right,
exactly. Yep,
yeah, so, but it's good to look at
Yes, yep.
sides and kind of, pick apart these words.
all right, so is everybody good with number 2 then? Okay. Number 3, will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. I can't,
They're not proposing to change
No.
the building.
no. Any other comments on that one? I know we've done this twice, but we want to make sure.
Yeah, I wanted to get a yes or a
Yeah,
no on
yeah.
each one.
Everyone comfortable with that one?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Number 4 then, the adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and/or necessary facilities have been or are being provided, which that's a no, that
Yes.
everything's there that needs to be. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. Back to parking.
That might be, that's something you really can't forecast right now totally. It's gonna be a matter of observation and then
Well-
if changes are needed, the changes get done.
Yeah.
That would be the,
I mean, I'm just throwing this out there that we can put conditions
Yes,
on the
yeah, we can.
conditional use permit. So if parking or street traffic is the main concern here, you know, perhaps there's measures in place that we could put on, you know, that they provide when they're on site and they provide some traffic control somehow, or, you know,
Well, I have one
to
more
get
question.
ahead
I
of,
put it in my letter, but you haven't addressed it. I think Poplar Street is kind of unsafe as it is, just because the speed limit is 35, but isn't that a county street? It's not a city street, right?
It's a
State
state,
highway.
yeah, it's a state highway.
So they would have to change the, limit if it were done. And my other question is, I don't remember my driver's ed, but is there a speeding zone in a church, area? I know schools have a certain.
That's, yeah, it's beyond, I don't think that, yeah.
We'll ask the police chief.
Yeah.
Oh,
Directly affect that without the
Yeah.
city
I would
implementing
just
a
like to see the
request.
speed limit go down generally, because I don't think it's very safe. And with more people in the area, it's a consideration, for me anyway.
so just to reiterate, you said that I'm just reading my notes here, so 130 members, Sunday services at 10:30, and then Wednesday evening at 6:30. That was, I didn't get written down what it was. Wednesday, 6:30. The youth, that's right.
Well,
And
mainly dropped off.
that's right, 40 to 60 drop off, okay, 10 to 15 vehicles. And then Thursdays were 5:45 to 8:30, and that was your outreach program. And what kind of traffic does that look like on a Thursday night?
About the same.
40 to 60 drop off with 10 to 15 vehicles? Okay. I guess the Thursday night, how many businesses are open on Thursdays? Are there any?
I have
That
a
are-
list of that, if you'd like it.
Sure. Thank you.
Just go right through there.
Okay, so,
Most of them close at 5.
okay, Techniques and Tanning doesn't have anything for time. Mutual of Omaha, 9 to 5, closed on Sunday. Family Vision, 9 to 5, closed on Sunday. Rassman, Nelson, Wonio, 8 to 4, closed on Sundays. He was the one that we got the letter
Yeah.
from that said he is open sometimes on
he
Sundays.
started taking Sunday appointments.
I can show you the letter. That's all, I'm just saying what information we have. Edward Jones, 8:30 to 4:30, closed on Sunday. Hanson's Jewelry, they have various hours. Thursdays, they're open until 6, closed on Sundays. Van Ginkel Law Office, 9 to 4, 5 o'clock on Thursdays, closed on Sunday. The Fish Store closed on Sunday, and they're open until 5, Monday through Friday. Uppercut, 9 to 5, closed on Sundays. KSOM, 8 to 5, closed on Sundays. Interior Touch, open till 5, closed on Sundays. And American Home Patient, also open to 5, closed on Sundays. What about the hair? It's probably the same. Isn't there another hair place across the street?
Simply Hair, yeah, I couldn't find information because
But I'm just like any salon, I'm always
should be
amazed
the same.
sometimes. There's people at 6 a.m., there's people there at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, but you're talking one appointment, you know?
Right,
It's not-
nothing that,
They're not doing, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be a drag race.
no, no, no. All right,
Too, that I think needs considered is they hope to grow, so the numbers now really need to be basing it off of what the max capacity is and not what the current numbers are. If that makes sense. Which you would need the 73 parking spots,
So,
which is
yeah.
ample still there.
yeah,
Even without the
73.
20 for the-
What is the plan? How much bigger is this building than than the one over on,
So our current space that we have combined with a little garage that we own, we're sitting at about 5,000 square feet total. That's upstairs, downstairs, everything. With this building plus the 410 Poplar, we're sitting at about anywhere from 68 to 7,000 square feet.
Let me make a comment. When he says 130, that's adults
And
little kids.
All ages.
Mhm.
Oh, that's not 130 adults, that's not 130 driver's licenses.
Right,
that's
okay.
130 people from this big to,
And that's average for the last, I went ahead and took for the last 3 years, just to get a better average.
So do you know your percentage of growth, like, over the years that you've been
Yeah.
here? And is that sustainable, or how, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
that,
With the city that we have, roughly 7,000 people, you're not gonna get more than, I don't know, 6% going to any one church.
Okay.
And so we're still well under that. And even at that, we would be looking at about that 250 mark, which there's 365 chairs in there now. So that's why this building kind of fits our needs.
And, what we've been currently, the theater regularly accommodates, how many people would you say, like, on a busy time? Yeah, like, as far as parking, what we accommodate now.
I'm asking you, do you want an average of what's been there, or how many we can accommodate, what our biggest number ever has been?
Both.
We've closed because of no people the last 5 days, because no one showed up to a show. So there's that. The biggest show we've ever had would have had to be like the Frozen Star Wars, and that was the first month we owned it. Can I ask my husband?
Yeah, no,
That was, but I know he said that was the day off.
But we know, so obviously what we're dealing with is that there's going to be an increase in
Yeah.
parking, needs. So I think that should be noted, or,
Melissa, that one comment you had from a letter, for Wonio's office in Rasmussen, they park behind in the parking lot all the time, and that's where they go in, is in that back door. The customers do, or clients.
right, the parking lot
parking
that
lot.
the church would use, yeah,
Well, I mean, they can either one use it, but as far as.
Right. right.
But that's what his clients use, is not in front of the.
I would assume so.
but at that many parking spots, we're not, I mean, if you were just looking at street parking, he'd be a mile down the road. So yes, we're talking parking lots. And if you said, average per car would be 3 people, average probably around 3,
Yeah, I try to do
3 to 5.
Yeah, 3 to 5 really, yeah.
Yep, so at 250 people with 3 people in a car, you would need roughly 83 parking spots, is what I just thought about, so. And,
Actually, exactly what the theater had, their biggest thing. So he said the biggest showing we've ever had was Endgame, and the movie that was with it. It was 280 people. He thinks there was about an average of 3 per party.
okay,
So that's literally the exact same thing that the theater currently maxes out.
I've already done it.
okay.
All right. Does everybody have a feeling on that one? This is the only one so far. Any other comments or anything? All right, we'll.
We table that one,
Yep,
maybe
we'll keep,
move on?
yeah, we'll go to the next one. That the conditional use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, except as such regulations may, in each instance, be modified as provided in Article 23. And Article 23 was
That's parking
the
again.
parking thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I really think number 5 is getting to the traffic, and then number 6 is getting
Is
to
actual
the parking.
yeah. Because it does talk about traffic congestion, and Article 23 refers to the parking, those regulations about the, what'd I say? I'm sorry, guys, I got too many papers. It was one for every,
5.
yes, one for every 5.
Which with nobody being open, there's been no congestion.
Right. Have you found any with the Catholic Church being in session 2, there's still, you don't find any issues there?
Might add that most all the parking at the library on Sunday at 10:30.
What's that?
He said that you're using the, oh,
We don't.
they said to use all the parking.
Yeah, we're pretty clear about making sure we park in the public lots.
We don't use.
But you,
I've
in your,
never seen anybody but the Catholics. You can tell which are Catholics.
Okay, we'll leave
but
that
in your,
one
in
there.
your,
We stand on side.
Yeah.
yeah.
I might add on the parking that most of our people, all of our people except for maybe me, park on the street that the theater is located and the parking lot in question behind Warren Hill. There's only myself and maybe one other person that's actually crossing Poplar Street to attend church. And the only reason why I'm parking there is I drop my wife off at the front door, go around and park.
Yeah, because I didn't count the spots on Chestnut. I just counted the 2 public spots there. So again, none of those businesses are open, so those would be more available spots.
Well, it would make more sense to me to go to the church or the theater, either one, to park on the,
On a safer street.
yeah, on, or in that public lot that's right there. All right, so,
In your opening statement, you did mention the library parking.
Yeah.
So I just,
thought it was public.
yeah.
So educated
I just
myself, so-
bringing that up, that was part of the acknowledgement, so.
yeah. All right, so 6 is, okay or not okay?
How many parking spots were there total in that, in between the two?
And
Did they?
to 115 without the library.
Okay, and those are all public,
Public.
115.
And that's more than what would be
More
Correct,
than-
yeah.
More than required,
Mhm.
yeah.
at max capacity.
Correct.
All right, so
So I,
parking, we're good with.
and I think 5, I mean, I don't see,
Or the congestion, you think?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because there's no, I mean, they've met all of the requirements are under, and even with growth, there would still be under. All
In
right,
regards to the comment that somebody said there's crowds standing out in the street, we have greeters that stand in front of the theater, open the door, good morning, thank you for coming. Not standing out in the street like it's a hood.
yeah, no, well, and it wasn't crowds, it was some, and again, this, I was just told this, so you don't have to believe it, whichever, but they said on more than one occasion when they'd driven down Poplar, they had a child jut out, and they were just, they were concerned because there were so many people on the street, on the side of the, not in the street, but on the sidewalks, and so, yeah, that's just what I was
So
told.
I think having
So.
some signage and just, having those people outside, yeah, keeping a watch.
Can I say something? I live on East Fifth Street and I have to look very carefully because cars just fly down that street, so I don't see that being any different.
Right, stop sign, I mean, you obey the, right, yep. Okay, so back to 6 then. We got 1 through 5 checks. 6 is we all agree that this one addresses more parking than the traffic congestion as in number 5.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, again, we say, if my math is correct, they need 73 parking places, which we've established they have more than that. And even if we went with the 83 that you figured, there's still more than that.
And I don't feel compelled to require additional burden as when it comes to parking, I guess, when it comes to this conditional use permit.
They've proven that there's
Right.
more than enough parking. All right, so are we checking number 6? Is everyone okay with that? Number 7, that the proposed use shall be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Again, it's not inconsistent. I mean, it's not a detriment.
Right. It's not an industrial use. It's
Any other comments, concerns? Are we?
I think this is the only one that could align with some of the major concerns that people have that we're not necessarily addressing tonight, but that will no longer be a retail or commercial space.
Mhm.
Which is the primary intent of this district.
And it was also brought up too that, with the existence of the other churches close to there, and the difference may be that they've been there for over 100 years, and they were there before the current rules that we have now. So that's why nothing has ever been said about the traffic and the things for either one of those. Any other, what are your thoughts on number 7, you guys?
I have highlighted zoned commercial central business district. That's a big factor there. And then I also have highlighted mixed use. So how is a church affiliated with a mixed use building? Where a lot of the mixed use are retail with upper
Level
apartments.
But the building in particular would not lend itself to any residential use upstairs, so it's not like,
Someone's
I would definitely have huge reservations for like an entire building turning into residential in this district. That's
Right.
why we say like that's not a good practice.
All right.
Like other things you have to consider, other than the 7 standards, there is the predicate of the whole conditional use thing, the 2 paragraphs, 2580.1.
Oh, that's right. That was at the bottom here. Okay.
And then 2583. And that's the review and the review and approval process. So those would be the only 2 other things where the written word of our ordinance is what the board will be held accountable for. So you have to make.
Okay. Can you all see that okay, or do you want me to read it? Everybody good with can you see it okay? Okay. I'll just give everybody a couple seconds to make sure you can get through it. So that last paragraph, Board of Adjustment shall review the site, existing and proposed structures, architectural plans, neighboring uses, parking areas, driveway locations, highway access, traffic generation and circulation, drainage, sewage, and water systems, and their proposed operation. So, thoughts on that one? Or either one, I guess, not just the. It's in here too. It says the Board of Adjustment may authorize the zoning administrator to issue a conditional use permit for conditional uses, provided that such conditional uses or structures are in accordance with the purpose and intent of this ordinance and are found not to be hazardous, harmful, offensive, or otherwise adverse to the environment, the applicant, or the value of the neighborhood or community. So I suppose value of the community, that's something that's been raised by multitudes of people, but I don't know. In my mind, from what the comments were, the loss of people coming to Atlantic and eating, shopping, doing those things before they go to the movie, or I saw that several of the letters and comments had addressed that. So just bringing in, I'm not saying yay or nay, just bringing it up for discussion. We want to make sure we cover every aspect.
I guess the thing that I find interesting is you've got all these people that are saying, well, we're losing our theater, and we just heard they closed the last 5 nights as no one's there. There's been 2,400 movie theaters nationwide that have closed this year. It's a dying breed. Everyone's going to online streaming, Netflix, whatnot. We feel as a church, we will do the town greater good because we help the downtrodden. We reach out to everyone we can, and we do, down the road, plan on using this theater, our church, as a source of entertainment for people. We're not gonna change the structure inside, it will remain the same. So those who want to touch with nostalgia, they can come in when we do things down the road for the public entertainment. We're just looking for the greater good. And theaters overall is just a dying breed. I don't care who takes it over.
That's a personal opinion.
It is.
I mean,
But if people aren't attending, then I just look at the facts.
Sure,
You look,
sure. I
it's
do,
nationwide.
yeah, I do see the value of the neighborhood, the community. That's a major factor. The last 5 days have been bad weather. This going on, it's going to take an effect on a lot of things. I think, and yeah, just a second here. I do think with this going on, that is going to take an effect on that. And I also do think, yeah, that the value of the neighborhood and the community, it is a factor, big time. Sorry, there was something else I was going to say, but go ahead. I can come back to it. Sure, yeah. Oh, sure, yeah.
We actually had a significantly smaller group than we expected because it's also the first time in a month we've had 2 new movies on the same weekend.
Oh.
So it would be highly unusual to have.
Would you, no one can hear. Would
Behind
you
you, yeah.
mind if would you step up and just say that again, pretty please?
I would like to speak to more than the last week because I think that that's relevant. Thank you, Barb. I think that's relevant too. If we're gonna bring in, the community needs a theater as part of the discussion, then you should fairly understand it. His might be an opinion, but I would venture to say that I'm an expert in the field.
Sure. Yeah.
So we typically expect on weekends in which we have 2 new movies, a decent crowd. The average has been going down since the day we bought it. We have continued to hang on thinking, it'll come back because there's been other things going on. It's not just, a theater. There's been a pandemic. There's been lots of things going on. There's been a whole change that he spoke to a little bit. The streaming, the whole industry has changed.
Sure.
And during the time of the pandemic, there were other things happening within the industry that changed the rules completely about how a person acquires and uses a movie. So I don't think any of that is relevant, but I mean, you asked the question, like, who's coming to the theater?
Sure.
We have had such a small crowd. Like, without
New Life Church paying some of the utilities, this is a much more difficult situation.
Sure.
So, in some ways, I would argue they've already been adding to the community by keeping us where we are for this long.
Sure.
The loss of the theaters, we started with a cohort of other theaters the same size in the Midwest, and only one of them is still open. And I think there were 5 of us altogether that are the same size communities throughout like North and South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, et cetera. So that
Is that based off just your community, as in the population of Atlantic, Iowa? Or are you looking at, like for us, for example, we look at a 30-mile diameter of the area of how many people we populate in that area, not just the county, but within.
it's known as population.
Yeah,
draw,
populate.
yes.
Yeah, Des Moines and Omaha. And,
Yeah, that's and it wasn't a formal study, by the way. This
Sure.
is just when we were looking at doing it, we thought, hey, we should probably see what's happening. Obviously, we couldn't have known the pandemic was going to happen, but it's actually a professional organization known as North Central NATO, or National Association of Theater Owners. So it's a panel of experts basically saying, with the way the rules have changed, there's not really an expectation that theater attendance will rise again.
How do you, what are your thoughts on, like, the theater in Audubon thriving? The theater in Red Oak has, I think it's it's not privately owned, if I remember. I don't remember which.
I'm not sure that that's relevant to whether or not the church can continue to rent from us.
No, we're asking.
No, you
saying
just said
you're basing your
movies are done. And so I
No.
just wondered your thoughts on Audubon is a smaller town, thriving theater, that they promote and draw. So I just opinion. I'm not picking. I just.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask also is.
Yeah.
How can when you say those 5 locations, you look at smaller communities that are running good operations that are doing well or raising or surviving this. How can you compare what we have here to other family-owned businesses that are thriving and or doing well or keep
In the theater industry or other industries?
No, in the theater industry.
Very few would consider themselves thriving. We've been on weekly meetings with people from all across the nation at multiple sites. So we're not even saying 2 screens all the way up through people who have 20 or 30
Sure.
screens. They've spent a significant amount of time in Congress lobbying to change the rules again, because that's part of what hurt it the most. People who are maintaining some amount. I haven't spoken with the Audubon people, so I can't speak to that. But I do know that Harlan has more screens, which changes the number of available new movies you can get at a time.
And it's not Audubon pretty much volunteers? I think it is.
It's a community. I think it's a
Yeah.
community run. Yeah, nonprofit. I think. Yeah.
So maybe it was the opposite, or maybe they both are.
I
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
They're both community, volunteer run. Okay.
Really, all I wanted to say is that I was specifically asked about the number of people who come, and that's all.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Sorry to make you go up, but that way everybody can hear the whole conversation, because I would never get it all repeated. Okay, back to number 7. Proposed use shall be consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Like you said, it's like there's no one thing that we can point to that
No.
says it's inconsistent.
No. All right. So we've looked at those, or what was there? Sorry, it's not there now.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Just 7. Okay, yeah.
So I guess at this point, does someone want to make a motion? It can be, just to restate, like Alexis said, it can be a motion to grant with conditions, or it could be just a straight approve or not approve. It's definitely, I hope everyone realizes this is not an easy decision, but we have the rules, and it's, I don't know if law is the right word, but that's what we have to follow.
We're not you right now.
Huh?
We're glad we're not you.
And the matter at hand is the conditional use permit, what's
Right.
going in there.
Right.
Again, so I'll say it again, not what's
Right.
being lost.
Yep.
And our decision has no effect on saving or not saving anything.
You're correct. I would agree. Any other discussion, questions for the Andersons or the theater, or the church, sorry? Okay. Someone dive in, make a motion.
Make a motion that we approve it based on the 7 criteria.
Okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign? All right, motion carried.
So approved with no conditions then?
Approved with no conditions. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. Next meeting, we don't have scheduled. We just meet as needed, so thank you again.
Bundle up.
Could we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right.